Arch Advocate Podcast YouTube version update on the New Zealand shooter. Listen, this story is rife with bullshit. Now, as a follower of Jesus Christ, I apologize for my potty mouth and the potty mouth that is ensuing. There's going to be some cusses in this particular episode. Just really quick, there's too many things to get to in one video, right? People don't want to sit down and watch an hour-long video, so I'm going to break this up into a bunch of different little parts, and this is part one. Number one, false flag. There seems to be a great deal of confusion about what that word actually means. There's people that went on to my original video and said some nasty... By the way, most of you people, thank you so much for your input. Thank you for the information, too. I'm getting a lot of information that's not being covered on the news from you guys. This is the significance of community. This is the importance of community. If we're going to get through this, we're going to have to get through it together. Most of you... And when I say most, I mean it's like 99% of you guys are putting out good information and saying, well, wait a minute. I had one guy write in and say, listen, I'm from the town that this guy is from in Australia. He said, this is a small town and we don't have drug problems. We don't really have, we don't have metropolitan problems. And if this guy was radicalized or if he got, went through some weird MK Ultra program, something, it must have been while he was traveling. Right? Which brings me to the next point. It's like his traveling thing. How is it that all of a sudden, right? I think that you've got to think about this, all right? Look at it like this. Before the guy was even taken down to the jailhouse, right? Before the last shell even dropped, this guy's manifesto was public. Which has also been taken down, by the way. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Facebook and Instagram and everybody else. The manifesto has already been taken down. You no longer have permission to see this nut job's manifesto. The permission from the Google overlords and Mark Zuckerberg and these people, they've already taken that away from you, which ties into everything else, by the way. And again, I need to break this down into a few different points. There is way too much to get to for me to just sit down, do an hour, and hope that you're going to sit there for an hour and watch it. So let me break this down into a couple of points. False flags. Let's make sure that we're clear on what this definition actually means. A false flag, despite what some people are saying, false flag does not mean what we're saying when we call it a false flag, or is that we're saying that it didn't actually happen. Yes, of course, I believe that actually happened. Although, there's a lot of really weird things going on. No bullet holes in the walls, no blood splatter, no blood on the sheets that they used to cover the people. Like this, we'll get to that. Not on this episode, though. What is a false flag? It does not mean that the person claiming false flag is saying, well, I don't think that actually happened. It's not what a false flag is. False flag goes all the way back to the days when the most sophisticated piece of technology was a ship, right? And there was pirates, and there was the British Navy, and there was the Spanish Armada, and all those other things. And sometimes people would put up a flag of a different nation so that when they were approaching the people that they were going to attack, they wouldn't get ready for battle. They'd be like, oh, those are our friends. Because they've got a flag up that says that they're our friends. Or another way that they would do it is sometimes pirates, they would raid a ship and they'd get all the gold and whatever it was that they were stealing, and then they'd put up a flag of skull and crossbones. And what that meant is we have a disease on this ship. Don't come close over here or else you're going to get sick. And so other, like the British Navy, they'd say, whoa, let's not go over there. Those people are sick. That's what a false flag means. But then it morphed into more of a military meaning. And it means that you're representing something to distract away from something else, to achieve another end game or objective. That's what a false flag means. And if you think that people that claim false flags are just some conspiracy theory nutters, you think that people that say false flag are just people like Alex Jones, if you don't like Alex Jones. And you think it's just Alex Jones with a tinfoil hat on his head smoking a cigar on Joe Rogan or whatever. You think that's what people who say false flag, you think that's what that means? That's not what that means. False flags do happen. Case in point, Operation Northwoods. This is not a conspiracy, people. It's not a conspiracy theory. If you don't know, Operation Northwoods was when let me pull this up here for you. The proposed but never executed 1962 Operation Northwoods plot by the U.S. Department of Defense. That's who I used to work for when I served in the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense wanted war with Cuba. And so what they did was they planned to shoot down an American jetliner using a jet that looked like a Russian MiG with Cuban paint on it. That was actually planned, and it was approved. It was approved by the Department of Defense. Let's see, fabricating involves scenarios such as fabricating the hijacking or shooting down of passengers in military planes, sinking a U.S. ship in the vicinity of Cuba, burning crops, sinking a boat filled with Cuban refugees, attacks by alleged Cuban infiltrators inside the United States, and harassment of U.S. aircraft, and shipping and the destruction of aerial drones by aircraft disguised as Cuban MiGs. These actions would be blamed on Cuba and would be a pretext of invasion of Cuba to overthrow Fidel Castro's communist government. It was authorized by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This was authorized by American people in the government. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, that's the President's Military Council. But then it was rejected by President John F. Kennedy. You understand what I just said? The Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States of America and the Department of Defense concocted this idea and approved it. And one of the big things, one of the main reasons, I'm not going to go into it, but the thing that they all settled on was we need to shoot down an aircraft, a passenger jet full of Americans. And then we'll blame it on Cuba, and that way the American people will be behind us so that we can go into Cuba, because those are a bunch of damn communists, and we need to take them over. They're inviting Russians into Cuba so that they can park their missiles on Cuban soil, which is right next door to Florida. And that's what they came up with. That is a false flag operation that never got fully greenlit. But that happened, people. Here's another one for you. It's called the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Let me read this to you. The Gulf of Tonkin is why the United States got involved in Vietnam. Vietnam, which ended up resulting in the death of over 600,000 young men from the United States. Soldiers and Marines. And Navy and Air Force guys. But the Gulf of Tonkin, the Secretary of Defense at the time, Robert McNamara. See, the Gulf of Tonkin was, there was a ship called the USS Maddox. It was a destroyer, and it was attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin. It's right there next to Vietnam. And because of that, they came to the American people and they said, look, we got to go to war with North Vietnam, because they attacked one of our ships. And America said, yeah, F them and F that, let's go to war. And then it turns out it never really happened. The Secretary of Defense, right? Now again, as a United States Marine, when I was serving, the Secretary of Defense at the time was, I believe it was actually Dick Cheney. But the guy in charge was Robert McNamara, and he admitted that on August 2nd, the USS Maddox attack happened, but the Defense Department didn't respond to it. And the second attack in the Gulf of Tonkin, which was supposedly days later, that never actually happened. They lied. He admitted that he lied. Why? So that we could get into Vietnam. That's what a false flag is. A false flag is when you represent one thing to try to get to another agenda. And the thing is that these false flag operations, they're no longer just confined to ships on the open ocean. They're no longer confined to military operations to get nations to engage in war. It's happening all around us. I'll give you a perfect example. Abortion, right? Abortion. This is about women's reproductive rights, man. Are you some sort of monster where, if a woman gets raped and she gets pregnant, that she's going to have that baby? That's a false flag. What they really want is baby murder. You look up what percentage of women who go in to get an abortion who claim that they were raped or a victim of incest, or that baby could actually cost the mother their lives. No. When they make that argument, it is a false flag argument. Yes, of course those things actually happen, and when they do, it's horrific and disturbing, and somebody needs to take care of that. But when you make the argument like, oh, what about women's reproductive rights? And are you some sort of monster that you wouldn't, you're going to force some young lady to have a baby out of, as a result of rape? It's like, that's a false flag. You're trying to deflect. You're trying to get me to look over here when the battle is right here. And we're going to be talking about that as these segments continue. This operation already, before the guy even gets down to the police station for processing, because they arrested the dude in New Zealand. Before that even happens, we've got his manifesto. We have all of his travel records from, since he was born. We have all this information on him. And what's the first thing they say they need to do? Oh, we need to tighten up on gun control. Never mind the fact that he, just like every other mass shooter, is a product of, a broken home and single motherhood and just brokenness. Yeah, let's not address the fact that divorce is a industry in the Western world. It is a money-making industry. Let's not address that. Instead, let's blame it on an inanimate object. So that's part one. False flags. Keep your definitions straight, people. We're going to be getting into this. And by the way, please do hit subscribe. Also, please join the podcast. I have a daily podcast, The Arch Advocate Show. It's on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere that podcasts are, I'm pretty much there. Arch Advocate Podcast. Join that, and please do hit subscribe to that as well. I appreciate you guys. Keep those comments coming. If I don't respond to you, I'll get to you. Thank you very much, and be looking forward to the next segment.